Hello, everyone. Hi. Lovely to see you all joining us today. I'm Lauren and I work for the marketing within the marketing team at CX Partners. I'm just going to say hello and chat for a couple of minutes while you all filter in. So if you've not been to one of these before, the purpose of this series is to offer a program of learning to our clients. And not only does that mean that we get to share some of our knowledge and expertise with you all, but it means that we can get more out of the work that we're doing together. This session, however, is slightly different to our normal client lunch and learns because we had so much interest in it that we opened it up beyond our clients. So welcome to all of you too. So this month's session is Roadmaps, Destination Unknown. And in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Giles. And he is going to be our speaker today. But we'll be running more of these sessions in the coming months, and we'll be sending out details to these to you all. And we'd love to hear from you, though, as always. So it's great to get your feedback. So any thoughts that you have, drop them into the chat, or you can always email them over to us at marketing@cxpartners.co.uk. Let us know if this time works for you, if you like the format, if there are any particular topics that you would like to see us cover in the future. Please send them over, all your ideas. So just moving on to today's session. So our speaker today is Giles, and he is the CEO of CX Partners and also strategy director for the UK consulting arm of Sopra Steria, which is our parent company. And before we get started, I just wanted to let you know, and this is really important, that this is a one-way webinar. So no one can see you or hear you. So please feel free to eat your lunch without fear that we can see you doing so. And then finally, if you have any thoughts or questions during the session, just add them into the chat or the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And then I'll pop back at the end and we'll go through those questions. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Giles.
Thanks, Lauren. What Lauren said, I'm fascinated to hear your experiences, good and bad, with roadmaps and the kind of problems that we talk about today. So please put in your comments, questions, observations, tips into the chat. I work with boards, change makers on transformation programs, and whenever you're working on a long-term program, somebody is bound to say, well, what we need is a strategic roadmap, and that's true. You do, and roadmaps seem like a good idea. But when I talk to people about their real experiences, roadmaps, they're almost always negative. And there's a bunch of problems that just crop up again and again when people try to create and execute roadmaps. The first sort of bad roadmap is the roadmap that is nothing but low-hanging fruit, just lacks any kind of ambition or vision, and all you see are a list of quick wins that we can just churn through. And it's demoralizing because you're doing a lot of busy work, a lot of easy stuff, and you see other organizations out there that are reaching a bit further and doing a bit more, and you never seem to be doing anything other than quite dull little fixes. Of course, the opposite kind of roadmap is the big vision roadmap, where we've got a big strategic program, and somewhere out there on the other side of the horizon is the goal. And you just seem to be going down this sort of featureless road towards the day when the big bang will happen and you'll launch the thing. I've had colleagues and friends who've worked on this kind of project, this kind of transformation, and have left the organization or gone off to work in a different part of the organization and come back years later to rejoin the program, and it still looks like this. When are we going to get there? Maybe in a few years' time. The third kind of roadmap is the roadmap that nobody really believes. So we know we need to create a roadmap, and we will create a roadmap, and it's there for show, but nobody actually believes that any of the stuff is going to get done. And very often, this kind of roadmap is created for show. It's created because somebody wanted to see one, and so it's put together, and then left in a drawer. And that happens to a lot of roadmaps. And when you reopen that drawer and pull it out and you have a look at it, what you find is that the road hasn't been looked at or maintained for months or years, and it's just crumbled away. There's no road, there's no roadmap anymore. So, those are the common problems, right? Low-hanging fruit and no vision, all vision and no delivery. Nobody really believes it. Nobody actually uses it. So how are we going to get around that? I think one of the problems with roadmaps really comes down to sort of a truth about all of them, which is that it's a roadmap, so you're trying to get away from somewhere. And I think of the old joke about the guy who finds himself sort of lost in the country, and he sees a farmer coming towards him on a tractor. He flags him down. He says, "I'm trying to get to Middleton. What's the best way, please?" And the farmer looks ahead of him, and he looks behind him, and he says, "Sonny, if you're trying to get to Middleton, you shouldn't start from here." And roadmaps always start in the wrong place. They start in the place that you want to get away from. You don't have the right technology, you don't have the right skills, you don't have the right budget. So how do you get to somewhere interesting and valuable and important from the middle of nowhere? I think it's probably easiest to begin with an example. Say, okay, look, this is the sort of things that you need to see in a good roadmap. And because I love digital design, I suppose it would better be an example from Apple. So let's think about Apple Pay. You don't think about Apple as being a financial services company, but they're a huge financial services company. And back in 2001, Apple included an application on the Mac called Keychain. And Keychain allowed your Mac to store passwords for a Wi-Fi network or for an email server securely, so that as long as you're logged into your Mac, all those passwords were automatically entered for you. You didn't need to type your email password every time that you turned on your computer. And it's still there today. It's buried in a folder called System Utilities on your Mac. Most people never touch it, never even know it's there. And in 2007, when Apple created the iPhone, they used a lot of Mac technology and they included Keychain. Okay, so far so dull. If you're going to make a big play in financial services, you wouldn't want to start from here. 2011, Apple launched iCloud, which syncs various bits of data between your Mac and your phone, and that's nice. So now if your Mac knows about a Wi-Fi network, you don't need to retype the password on your fiddly little iPhone. And Apple starts to add more stuff to Keychain. So website passwords, your address. It'll even automatically fill in your credit card details, all automatically filled into a web form. So you're learning to store payment details onto your devices. In 2013, Apple added Touch ID to the iPhone 5S. And so now you can have longer, stronger passwords to unlock your iPhone, which is where you keep all of those important details. And unlocking your iPhone takes a split second, almost no effort. It's something you can do just as you kind of walk past a checkout, for instance. That's good, because the next year, Apple includes NFC contactless technology on the iPhone 6, and it launches Apple Pay. And now you can add a credit card to your phone. You can tap it on any contactless payment device. You can authorize the payment with a fingerprint. Within 2 years, that service is growing at 1 million users a week. Other companies, banks, retailers, technology firms, were all trying and failing to do something similar. And this is, by a margin, the world's most popular digital payment system. And it all begins with that dull systems utility. So that's a simplification. I certainly don't have the inside track on Apple, and I do know that there's a lot more than what I've had a chance to tell you about today going on. Apple are buying other pieces of technology in the background and putting together an ecosystem to create Apple Pay. Apple were very clear about that at the time. They said, look, we've been working on Apple Pay for years. But when you look at this simplified view, you get a sense of what a good product roadmap is and how you get from where you don't want to be to where everyone else wishes they could be. So there's not a big bang release here. This isn't an endless technology program with nothing getting released along the way. There's a multi-year plan in place. The issues are being solved in a sensible sequence. You start with passwords, you move on to payments, and you're regularly releasing something that's of value to users at each step, and also something that's valuable to your business, whether it's differentiating your product with something like Touch ID or revenue generating services like iCloud. So there's an evolution of user value and an evolution of business value. And technical and operational challenges are being solved one by one. And that, for me, is what a good roadmap looks like. When you think about what it takes to do that, you realize that a great roadmap requires discipline, and it requires discipline to maintain your focus for years. Apple's roadmap combines that discipline with a regular delivery of something valuable. So, okay, that's what a great roadmap looks like. I think then if you're going to solve the problem of how do you create great strategic roadmaps, you have to figure out that discipline thing. Discipline is really about having a vision that everyone can buy into and hold to. In reality, a lot of projects don't start that way. I was doing some work with a financial services company a few years ago, and they came to me and said, we've done some user research, we've looked at customer pain points, and we have we've managed to find sort of 36 pain points that customers have, and none of these things are really a product. They're not even features. They're kind of opportunities, and a lot of them quick wins as well. So there's no vision here. There's nothing that will inspire, and there's no strategy. There's no way of telling what to do and what to ignore. And how then do you turn this sort of list of stuff, all of these possibilities, into something that's coherent and something that will get you further forward? And one of the stakeholders came forward and was like, well, you know what we should do? What we should do is build a dashboard. We should build a dashboard, and there we go. That will be our big idea. We'll let people see what's going on. And I don't know about you, but I don't think the world needs another dashboard. I don't think that was really getting to the heart of what it was that customers needed, and it's not an inspiring thing to get into. And it didn't really answer the question of, okay, what's going on with these 36 things? Another senior stakeholder said, I want business cases for each of these so we can choose which one to do, which is the most valuable of these. And a lot of roadmaps look like that, a prioritized list of problems to solve, or worse, prioritized list of features to deliver. So no vision, you just pick the low-hanging fruit. Some of these things were obviously quick fixes, some of them were slightly bigger ideas, nothing really big, nothing to kind of hang this on. And the idea of writing 36 business cases just seemed like a ridiculous waste of time. If what you're going to do is pick one and throw away 35, then you've written 35 business cases that you didn't need. So how do you find some vision out of all of this? Well, my suggestion was let's begin by clustering these, by just finding some themes in amongst all the customer problems that we've got. How do you find a theme? Well, there's a lot of different lenses that you could apply. And what kind of lens you apply depends, I suppose, on the sort of business challenge that you see. Is this do we want to apply the lens of business, and does it align to company mission, or customer? Does it align to customer goals, or feasibility? What's actually technologically or organizationally possible, or regulatory? What things are we allowed to do? A lot of organizations try to do a bit of all of these things, and that's a real danger for me, because you end up with this sort of balanced scorecard approach. The problem with balanced scorecards is that some things are easier to score, easier to quantify than others. Things that save you money are often very easy to quantify. Things that might make you money are hard to quantify. That's a possibility. And so with a balanced scorecard approach, what you tend to find is cost-saving features win out. I think what's important is to recognize that these things are often related, and they're related in what I call a theory of business. Now, I'm a customer-centered person. I think that good business is about delivering value to customers. And that is the way that I would always organize a scorecard. I put things in, and you can start to tell a story around that. So my theory of business is that by delivering customer value, you create business value. Do something for your customers that they want, and you'll get more customers, and they'll be prepared to pay more for your service. You do that in ways that are feasible, and you make sure you're doing it in ways that are in line with regulations. So it's not so much about balancing your scorecard, it's about lining up all of those possibilities. But it begins with customer value. And that is how you need to start to organize all of those little opportunities. What are the customer themes, the themes around customer value that we can see in here? So we sorted out those cards, and we got 4 clusters, 3 big themes, and 1 collection of smaller stuff that was actually mostly just sort of bug fixes, business as usual stuff. So what about those themes? Well, we kind of created labels and names for those themes, and that was really remarkable because those themes actually sounded exciting. There was real value for customers, and there were real opportunities for the business to do something that was different or interesting or more valuable. And you could start to see how these small items in the clusters were related to the trickier items in those clusters. And yes, there were organizational and technical challenges, which we kind of had a sense of from all of the discovery work that had been done. So we came up with descriptions of those themes, and you know, guess what? One of those things was a dashboard, but that wasn't the only theme. We had 3 different themes and three paths we could go down. So we had to answer that question, okay, well, which of these is the best opportunity? Now, we could have written business cases around each of those themes. And writing 3 business cases is a lot less wasteful than writing 36 business cases, but it's still wasted effort. And we began, therefore, by doing a quick assessment. We just took each of those lenses, customer value, business value, feasibility, regulation, and we got a group of experts together in front of the whiteboard, and we said, okay, just give these a kind of a red, amber, green rating, and tell us what you think. And very quickly, with that sort of top level of knowledge, we got to some consensus, some answers around that. So theme number 3 was a wonderful idea. It's like, if we could do that, that would be amazing for customers, and it would be fantastic for the business, except that it's really tricky to do and might even require a change in regulation to get it done, or at least to make it easier to get it done. So it started to look difficult from the feasibility point of view. And theme two was that dashboard, which was okay for customers, and yes, there was some business value in that. Tricky to do, but regulatory from a regulation point of view, pretty straightforward. It was an okay idea. Theme 1 was something that was great for the customer, something that was good for the business. Not the easiest thing to do, but not impossible. And absolutely, we could even sort of start to tie it into future regulation. We could see how that fit together. So we had a winner. And at that point, we were almost ready to present. Like, okay, let's go away and write that business case and present. But before we do that, let's just walk our stakeholders through this. And we did that. We walked them through our thinking. This is the board actually that we put together, and you can see how all of this stuff sort of started to fill up on the board at that time. We'd done the red, amber, green ratings and siphoned off the business as usual stuff. And we just walked our stakeholders through and said, look, this is where we're at. We're about to do the tricky thing of writing the business case. What do you think? And they said, we love it. We absolutely agree. You don't need to do the full business case. We completely get it and understand it. Just tidy this up a bit. And we need just that vision, that story to tie it all together. That is actually the missing piece. And that turned out to be the most important thing to get people to buy into it. It's just, what's the story around this? And so that's what we did. A vision can look like a number of things. It could be an elevator pitch, it could be a storyboard like this one, it could be a prototype, it could be a video, any of those things. But half of what you're trying to do with a roadmap is to get people pointing in the right direction, to give people the confidence to go down one road or another, even the self-confidence to say, my idea wasn't the best of these, this one is so much better, I'm completely bought into it. That gets you halfway, I think, with a roadmap. But the other part of a roadmap is the plan, right? And there's a trap here. The problem with cunning plans is that there are just too many things that can go wrong. And your roadmap is not a place for planning. It's a place for focus and alignment. It's a place for holding people to a vision. So it shouldn't look like a normal plan, no matter what anybody else tells you. And your instinct with any kind of plan is to create a Gantt chart, to create a schedule. When will features be released? And when I Google roadmaps, what I get is an awful lot of project planning things. The trouble with that is, that a project plan is too rigid for a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year program. And if you're not careful, you just lose that flexibility, and you end up devolving back into doing kind of quick wins or low-hanging fruit. The problem with long-term pieces of work, if you're trying to schedule features and build a vision like you're building a game of Tetris, reality gets in the way. Plans are useless. Things never turn out as you expect. And the further ahead you try and look, the bigger the difference between your plan and reality. Roadmaps are intended to see ahead for years. But planning is essential, right? Planning helps you learn about your capabilities, helps you think about what are we going to be doing next and where is this taking us. So you need something that's not quite a Gantt chart, that's not quite a plan, but still manages to look ahead. I think there's a problem with the way we talk about plans, and actually it's a problem with the idea of the word a road map. Roadmaps are fine if somebody has already bothered to go ahead of you and lay down tarmac and then provide you with a map of where all of that tarmac is. But the future isn't like that. The future isn't paved out for you. The future is murky and uncertain. So we're stuck with the word roadmaps. But I think a better metaphor is rock climbing. You think about what you're trying to do in a product roadmap, and it's kind of like the choices facing a rock climber. So the goal is to get up there to the top, and the route is visible, and you can kind of see where things look like you might be able to go and where things look like it would be really hard to go. But you only know about the next few handholds. You only know about whether something's going to hold your weight until you can reach out and touch it. Product roadmaps are kind of like that. that. You need to think about those three things: where you're trying to go, what a credible route might be, and in detail, what is the next step. So for me, I think when you're putting together the planning part of the roadmap, you really need to think about those sort of three phases, three lenses. And that gives you a chance to go from what is easy and known to what is more complicated and hard to do. And it gives you a way to get from low-hanging fruit into the difficult stuff. No, you're no longer just stuck processing the low-hanging fruit. You can see which ones are actually going to get you closer to where you want to be. Maybe it's best if I explain that with a made-up example. So, yeah, imagine your Netflix, not the Netflix of today, but the Netflix of 15 years ago. And what's your vision? What's your customer problem that you want to solve? Well, you've got a catalogue of shows, and you want that when people turn on Netflix, that they quickly find something that they want to watch. Okay, that's the way that you ensure you deliver value to your customers. You start off, you've just got a list of shows. So how do you turn that into, when I turn this on, I will quickly find something that I want to watch? Well, your low-hanging fruit for that is pretty straightforward. You go, well, let's just put things in categories. Let's make sure that we categorize out comedies, romances, crime, thriller, and so on. So you can quickly get to a list which feels like your mood. So simple categorization is a quick win to making your catalog a little more manageable for people and giving people a better chance to find something quickly that they want to watch. But that's not your big vision. You know, I want to be able to turn it on and people just see something they want to watch. Well, after that, we could start to do things like, you know, we could put in a search feature and keywords. And what that search feature and keywords does is it gives us a chance to understand what sort of things do people want to search for? What are the associations that people have? We can put in analytics behind it to see what individuals are watching. And we can start to build up data and knowledge. So building on the categorization that we had, we now have keywords, we have searches, and we're acquiring data and acquiring understanding so that eventually we can release an AI algorithm that says, for this individual at this time of day, this is the sort of thing they're likely to want to see. Of course, that's the Netflix that we see today. So you've got these sort of phases of delivery, from quick wins, you know, which are about setting direction, to building capability, to delivering something extraordinary at scale. And you can start to see how your opportunities add up and move you along. So each phase obviously is going to be defined in perhaps less and less detail. It's going to be a little more murky, a little further out. You can only really map out in detail the stuff that's super close. But I think that is the approach to planning that you need in a roadmap. You know, it's not about making all of your detailed moves together. It's about understanding what the different phases of achieving your big, audacious goal are, and understanding how you move from where you are today to how you get there. So a roadmap really is about saying, okay, what problems do we need to solve here, and what problems do we need to solve in the future? And that for me then is you know what a roadmap needs to look like. Something like this, where you've been able to set out a vision, what it is you want to achieve. You've divided that into a number of themes. You've identified which themes are the ones that are valuable, which themes are actually worth doing. And you've phased your approach to delivery, moving from the things that are going to help you set direction, the things that are going to help you build knowledge, build capability, and the things that are going to get you to the big, audacious goal. But a roadmap is not an artifact. A roadmap really is a manifestation of a vision and a manifestation of intent. And I think it's important to hold that in mind. You know, I might talk about roadmaps and here is the thing, but actually what's going on and what's important is about that discipline that we spoke about earlier. It's about being able to hold to that vision and do that across years. I think therefore the big challenge is this problem of maintaining alignment, because right from day one teams start to wobble and they need to be kept aligned. So you need to make sure that you're regularly returning to that roadmap, returning to that vision, and saying, what does the land actually look like now we've got this far? What are the adjustments that we need to make? And you need to do that with stakeholders from around the business. So I think there's a discipline there of just regularly, maybe each quarter, coming back to your roadmap, bringing people with different points of view back together to say, how do we need to adjust this? What progress are we actually being able to make? And what is the best way to get to our goal? I think you also need a culture that supports that. In other words, a culture where people can bring different points of view, can debate them, and then commit to a direction. Not to compromise, not to say, oh, you can have a bit of your idea if I get a bit of my idea, but to say, what is the one way we should go? What is the one thing that we should do? In other words, you need to be able to support creative conflict. And I find that a lot of organizations fall into that trap of trying to please everyone, trying to make sure that everyone leaves the room happy, rather than making sure that everyone has left the room saying what they needed to say, knowing that they've been heard, and agreeing that maybe this time is the time to kill my baby so that this other idea can go on instead. In other words, that ability to do less better. And you need therefore to work on culture and to work on that cultural ability to focus in order to keep roadmaps sane and in order to keep in alignment. So roadmaps. You need to identify how quick wins lead to the big wins. You need to align around customer value so that you have a genuine strategic impact. You need to review them regularly to make sure that they don't crumble and fall apart into nothing. You need to keep your road mapping separate from your project plan. Project plan is about what we do in the weeks in front of us. Roadmaps need to have much more flexibility, need to be looser kind of things, and they're about a more distant vision. And you need to make sure that you're backing that up by creating a culture of debate, creative conflict, and alignment, not a culture of compromise. Do that, and I think you're on the track to doing something remarkable. Thanks very much. Lauren, do we have anything in the Q&A?
Hello, thank you, Giles. That was excellent. Yeah, we've had loads of lovely comments and some questions, which I'll start running through in a second. But if anyone has anything else they'd like to ask, please pop it into either the Q&A at the bottom or the chat as well. So I'm just going to pop over to the chat now. So interesting. So Scott posted more of a comment, but I think we can turn it into a question. So Scott said that projects on our roadmaps always end when phase 1 finishes, and then the roadmap changes and we never get to develop phase 2 of the project, meaning projects never really get the best chance to succeed as they're only half built. Do you have any advice on that and how you can help encourage the long-term vision of, yes, these things need to go into phase 2, phase 3, beyond?
I think that's a great problem, and you know, I really recognise that. I think it returns to that challenge of organisational discipline. I think strategy is about being a little bit boring. It's about having the will to do the same thing for years, and when you're operating at a strategic level, you need to be getting buy-in at the highest levels of an organization where you are, trying to set direction for years ahead, rather than meet the needs of today in this quarter. So I think part of it is about, is the long-term vision something that's really bought into at board level? Is it something that aligns to organizational goals? Is it something that's been discussed and brought up there? Because if it's not, you're going to find people changing, and at the sort of an ownership level of the roadmap, and therefore, yeah, you're never going to get past phase one. So I suspect that's related to, as I say, getting the roadmap aligned to organizational goals, which endure long enough to see you past phase one or two. Big challenge for roadmaps, and of course, like any big challenge, there's a big win on the other side of it. So that's a great point to bring up. I hope that's given some clarity on where I think you go with that.
And I think an extension of that point that you're just making there is another question that we've had is about how can I convince my leadership team that we need to create a better roadmap?
I have a thing. I think it's always better not to try and convince people. It's better to let them have the idea themselves, and so better to let them recognize stuff for themselves. So I called out at the start a number of problems, that I've catalogued with roadmaps, and chances are that you've seen those problems yourself. Your leadership team has seen those problems, and maybe has a few of its own. And I would begin by just asking them where they think the challenges are going to lie with current plans, or in achieving their goals, or with roadmaps. What you want them to do is to do something different. And so you need to be saying, okay, so you want us to achieve this sort of long-term objective, but we know that these are the problems we've had in the past. We're going to do something different, and that's the beginning then of your conversation, to say, okay, well, I think we could do this instead. But I'd always begin by, as I say, listening to people, hearing about the problems that they have, and thinking about where what you're doing aligns to those. If it doesn't align, that's a good question for you in your own right. But if you want to convince somebody to do something, it's always important to begin by listening. And then you have the opportunity to solve the problem as they see it, and that's something they're going to buy into much more easily.
Great. Okay. And we've had a question on whether you have any advice on prioritization. How do we ensure that we are prioritizing the right things as part of developing our roadmap?
I hope that's sort of in the clues to that are in the presentation is given. I think you need to break a problem down into chunks. The next chunk should be digestible, so it should be something we can achieve in the next 3 months. It needs to have some alignment to the problem-solving path that you need to go down. So it needs to say, okay, how does this quick win, how does this next 3 months turn into, give us something that we can then build on and build on again. And it needs to align to business value. And as I say, I think that's about having a theory of business. So you prioritize things where you can see, okay, we've got a business goal. It's served by meeting this customer value. We've got a vision. It's served by meeting this customer value, which will deliver business value in these ways and be technically feasible within the timescale that we've set. And if there's regulations or codes of conduct as well, that are influenced by it, it also meets those things. I'd be looking to break it down in that way. So to say, is this a granular thing that can be delivered and aligns to our kind of vision and theory of how we get there?
Great, thank you. And then I think we'll take one final question. Somebody's asked about how do you define a theme in the context of your roadmap model?
So for me, a theme is an area of customer value, and so one theme for Netflix is how do we get people to watch and use the service. But another theme for Netflix is how do we create the right level of control while you're viewing a movie. So, oh gosh, we need to make sure that people can pause it. We need to make sure that people can rewind it easily. And so there's a whole other theme on their roadmap around providing the correct levels of control for movies. And you can see that Prime has done that slightly differently from Netflix, where when you pause on Prime, it actually gives you all sorts of additional information about what's going on. So they've got quite different customer visions, and that's led to them executing the movie controls in slightly different ways. So your themes are really going to be around those big areas of customer value, and then your roadmap is about, okay, how do we deliver to those? So I've picked out in my examples individual themes, but in any complex product or service, you're going to find there's multiple themes that you need to deliver to create a complete service.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Giles, and thank you everyone for attending today. So
Yeah, great questions. Thank you, everyone.
there's been a few questions about whether you'll get the slides. We will make the recording to this session available, and we'll send that out to everybody over the next few days. Yeah, thanks again. We hope you join next month's session. You'll be sent an email about the topic of next month's session in the next few days as well. So please do join us. And yeah, any feedback is very welcome for today, and what you want to see from us next as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.